Welcome to the Pro Talks podcast. We are so excited for our guest, Dr. Mary Kelly. Today, I'm just going to do a quick intro of her. She was actually introduced to us by Meredith Elliott Powell. I'm going to say that again. Meredith Elliott Powell, who was a guest a couple weeks ago. So thank you, Meredith, for introducing us. So Dr. Mary Kelly is an amazing leadership expert, economist, and former naval intelligence officer. She wears so many hats. She's a speaker, author, former Navy commander, professor, consultant, like the list goes on and on and on. When we first talked to you, Mary, I was like, oh, this woman knows something about everything. And you have a process for everything. And that's why I'm so excited to dig more into a couple topics today. But something she's done is written an incredible collection of 5-minute workbooks on different topics from organization, recruiting, building a business plan, vision board, and has so many free downloadable resources on her websites like forms, lists, perfect for someone like me who wants all that stuff done for me by someone who knows how to do it. And so today we're just going to be talking about 3 topics: recruiting, leadership and delegation, and then how to physically check in with yourself so you can continue to show up for your business, for your employees, for your family, and most importantly, for yourself, because if you're not doing that, the rest of them don't get shown up for. So I'm so excited to talk with you more today. Again, Dr. Mary.
We had such a good time on our pre-call. I think we rambled on for like an hour and a half. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
It did go on. So we know a little bit about you, and we want to make sure our audience knows a little bit about you. So we're going to go into what we call the Lightning Greenberg round. So we're going to ask you a whole bunch of questions. There are quick snap kind of answers, and then we'll just roll. We'll alternate between me and Alexa. So Alexa's got the first question.
Okay. Where do you live?
Monument, Colorado. Population 5,600.
Wow. All right. Your proudest accomplishment thus far.
Finishing a marathon that I had not trained for. This is the miracle of a 26-year-old body, and that was a long, long time ago.
What is the biggest crowd you've... Ooh, some crazy dogs out there. What is the biggest crowd you've ever spoken in front of before?
22,000 people.
Oh, that is a massive audience. I don't know what I'd do in front of that audience. All right. What is the favorite thing about your career?
I love that every day is different and I get to help different people every day.
What is a life-changing book, podcast, or course you've taken?
A life-changing book that I read was probably Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that he wrote during the Holocaust. That's a good one. And then kind of an updated version of that is Lee Ellis's Leading with Honor. He was a POW in Vietnam. And the first book he read when he came out of Vietnam was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
Wow. I have that book, that first one you mentioned. I'm going to have to definitely check into that second one you mentioned, knowing what the first one was like. All right. Something a lot of people don't know about you. What's your secret?
I have a lot of secrets. I'm a former intelligence officer, so I keep a lot of secrets, but I'm a former chief of police. And a lot of people don't realize that, but I'm a former chief of police.
How do you have the time? Like, you have so many.
You've lived many lives already.
I try to stay really busy. I also learned that 1 minute is a long time if you maximize it correctly. And so I it's like the song from Rent, 525,600 minutes. So, and I think every single one of those is precious.
First of all, love that song. Now it's going to be stuck in my head for the rest of the day.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. What is a skill or talent that you wish you had?
Oh gosh, I wish I could interior design. I'm horrible at interior design, which is why my office, I get one color and a white wall, and that's it. That's all I get. I wear blue. I can't make furniture look nice in a room. I don't really have the eye that some people have. I would like that skill.
That's a good skill to have.
Also, I'd like to fly. Like if I was an avatar, I would like to fly.
Ooh. They're supposed to be coming out with a new Avatar too sometime soon, I feel like. But it's been a while since the first one. I'm excited for it. I just don't know when. So we'll see.
Flying with an eye for design. Every girl's dream.
Alrighty. What did you want to be as a kid? This is the last question. What did you want to do when you grow up?
I wanted to be president of the United States, and now that I know what it actually entails, I really kind of don't want that job.
No. Worst job. Would not want that. So
Alrighty.
thank you for participating in our Lightning Greenberg round. We just think that name is so funny because it's like a lightning round, but it's our last name.
It's great. It's perfect.
So clever. So super clever. Our marketing team came up with that. Just kidding.
I came up with that.
I see.
Apparently you're the marketing team.
Yeah, the whole one.
No.
All righty. So let's dive right into this. So we're going to be covering those 3 topics that we mentioned. What we want to learn more about is kind of the process of all your workbooks and strategies, because you do a really good job of just breaking things down into steps. And I feel like sometimes when you're in front of something with just a big problem, it's harder to kind of figure out where to start. And so whenever you've got that framework in place or checklist in place, you can start kind of unbundling and kind of packing it through. So what characteristics, I think maybe from your background, maybe from your military career, translate into this kind of work and resources? Like, how do you think you've been able to do this in such an effective way?
Thanks for that. And I think what makes it helpful, remember in the military, you don't get to recruit. You don't get to hire. You have to work with whoever the military sends you. And they have a varying degree of skills, ability, talents, and you got to make it work. Maybe they're trained for the job. Maybe they're supposed to be trained for the job. Maybe they've failed out of another training school, so then they got dumped into this one and they're not excited about that job. So things have to be broken down and made easy. We are fond of checklists in the military. When you go to launch a plane off an aircraft carrier, there are checklists and checklists and checklists to make sure everybody knows what to do. And even now, if you ever get on a civilian airliner again, you will see the pilots walking around the plane with a checklist, even though maintenance has already done it. Anytime you do something and you do it more than once, there's a process, which means you can make it into a checklist. And if somebody is very process oriented, they can break it down for you. If you struggle with putting things into a process and you just feel like your brain is all over the place, those checklists are a godsend. So I started doing these 5-minute programs back for a big, it was one of my 20,000 audience member events. And they said, can you help each one of our individual agents create their own business plan? And I said, oh yeah, I've got a book on that. It's a 40-page. And they're like, no. I said, I got a 10-page. They're like, no. I said, I'll make a 1-page. They go, there you go. I said, okay. So now that started with the 5-minute business plan. And that has expanded to the 5-minute vision plan and the delegation plan and the recruitment plan and about 85 others. Because every time I find a problem, I'm like, oh, let's walk through what we already know. Let me flip through the book, which is handy to have it now in a book called 5 Minutes Per Week and 52 Weeks to Building a Better Business. And then that comes with this online vault, because people, you look at it in a book and you go, okay, that's helpful, but I'm on the road, I'm with a client. Well, there's a vault for that. And so you download whatever you need to work on that day or whatever the client's having trouble with. Initially, I did it for me so that I would have all the forms available. And there's, like I said, there's about 85 of them. And now I found that my clients are like, well, we want the vault. We want the vault too. And I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Here's the code. So that kind of became a thing. But I look at everything as, if other people have done it or if they're struggling with it, then wouldn't it be great if I could simply make it easy? And as leaders, we've got to take the mountains that other people see and kind of make them more into speed bumps.
Yeah, and I feel like when you've got a problem in front of you or you're trying to do something like a business plan, a lot of times you overcomplicate it, and then there's inaction. And so action always trumps inaction. And just by breaking it down and forcing yourself to start, you call it 5 minutes, but probably you call it 5 minutes just to get started, and it's going to take a little bit longer, but it forces you to at least get going. And it doesn't seem like this big insurmountable task in which, you won't do these things. So that's really helpful to know and keep track of.
That's like the 5-minute business plan. If you are crystal clear on your business and where you want to go and who you serve, it takes 5 minutes. If you're not so clear, then guess what? It might take you a little bit longer, but it's doable. Every single one is just 1 page long, just 1 page. And then you feel like, okay, I got it done. You can cross it off the list. If you give somebody 100 pages to work through, they're never going to do it. Right now, we're so distracted. Our focus is all over the map. We are short on time and energy and high on stress and frustration.
And oftentimes too, when you're starting a thing like a business plan or going back and revisiting, we focus on details that don't necessarily move the needle. And when you have a 1-pager or something like that, it's telling you all the most important things to do first. Because for someone like me, I get caught on one detail and I'll go really, really deep on something in a plan when really I need to be looking at the overall picture. So That, and another thing I totally never even realized until you just said it in the beginning is when you're in the military, you don't get to choose who your coworkers are. And fortunately for us and for you pros that are listening, we get to choose our coworkers because you are in charge of recruiting and hiring. So I want to talk a bit more about that. This is a topic that is so important right now. Our pros have had like the busiest seasons of their business. Like business is booming, and the biggest problem is they don't have people to help them. They don't have good employees either in the office or out in the field. And they're just having an issue about where do I find good people? So when we ask this question, we typically get a lot of ideological answers like, oh, you need to be certain this way to attract this type of person. But what's so cool about you is you have actual tactical strategies on how to do this. So can you please share some of these recruiting tactics with us?
Sure. And of course, I have the 5-minute recruiting plan because, again, we have to break things down and make it simple. So a couple areas. Right now, our unemployment just dropped below 10%. It's down to about 8.6%. At the beginning of the year, of course, it was closer to 3%. Now is actually a great time for people to be looking across their talent pool and assessing what do I need, not just for now, but in the future. A year ago, we were just hiring anybody who could fog a mirror because we didn't think we would get anything else. And now you can afford to be a little bit fussier. But a couple things you have to look at, and it's on the 5-minute plan, is where's my future talent? Where do they live? Where do they hang out? Where are they online? And then make sure that it is findable for you, helpful for them to find you. So for example, one of my clients, I said, hey, I want to take a look. They're having some trouble hiring. And I said, okay. So last night, after I finished talking to them, I went on their website. And sure enough, they've got all their important people on the website. And I click on all their stuff. Do you think you can find a hyperlink? You cannot. Do you think you can find their email or phone number? You cannot. Do you think you can find any testimonials about what it's like to work there? Not that either. So the first place that people are going to go is, wait a second, I'm going to go online to check you out as a potential employer. So you better be good. That means check your Yelp reviews, check your Google reviews, look at what you look like online for social media, and don't use your own computer. Use the incognito view or use somebody else's computer because your own computer is going to give you all the good stuff, so you're easy to find. But make sure you're easy to find online and make sure that the message you're conveying online is the right message. And you've seen some hate sites pop up with celebrities and people like that. And if you don't do something to combat the negative, that is what's going to be out there. So part of it is making sure that you are attractive to potential employees. Go where they're going online. If you are recruiting potentially future leaders, so you're looking at recent high school and college graduates, then go to those groups and those organizations that attract them first and foremost.
Yeah, and I think looking online too, it's important to realize the little tidbit that you share. This is the golden nugget, which is use an incognito browser or use a different system, because obviously when you're searching things over and over again yourself, it starts to tailor around your searches. That might not be what someone else sees. So if you want to hack that, there's 2 apps out there. You can use Tunnel Bear or Surfshark. Those are VPN, so it can look, you can just masquerade and pretend to be from some other locale, and that'll give you the ability to really take an honest look at what your business looks like from the outside eye, especially when you're Googling it. In the tech industry, obviously you have things like Glassdoor. You're a small business, so you won't have that Glassdoor, but just think about it. Everyone's looking at those things. There's businesses that have been stood up around it. And remember, the way that you reply to your own clients and your reviews that your clients are leaving are a really big indicator. I feel like that's another golden nugget. The reviews and replies that you give to those reviews are not just for your potential customers, but also for your potential recruits. And I think people don't realize that effect because it really compounds over time.
And how you respond is absolutely key. So I was reviewing, again, a different company, and their responses online were actually so funny, especially to the people who are criticizing them. And they did it in kind of a funny way, but they weren't being mean about it. And people just thought, hey, haters going to hate, it's fine. Because they made it, they're like, hey, sorry that just didn't work out for you. We prefer chocolate ice cream to vanilla too. And, it was just a funny vein. And we're like, let's face it, not everybody is going to love every single thing we do or say or the product or service that we are selling. That's okay. That's why there's a competitive marketplace. But how you respond, you get to control that.
Absolutely. I'm just thinking like, Some of our pros have the most hilarious responses to customer reviews. And another thing to think about, especially in home services, is like Mary said, you have to be where your potential recruits are, your ideal recruits. And a big mistake I see people making is only posting their job listing on Indeed or on Glassdoor. And oftentimes, like, it's so saturated, all of the job listings look the same, sound the same. So how are you going to stick out in that too? So consider where you are posting all of your applications.
One of the techniques I use is I tell employees, you have to have an updated resume, but you should never have to use it. And the reason for that is as soon as you tell 10 or 20 or 30 of your contacts, I am looking for a job that gives me these roles and responsibilities, they're going to know somebody, they're going to make the referral, and it's going to happen. So you've got to do your part. But again, on the company side, you've also got to do your part as well. I love companies that provide a referral reward. And by that it is, hey, if we hire Joe Bob, and Joe Bob has positive performance for the next 90 days, not only do you get a $50 or whatever number you want to use for bringing Joe Bob to us, but in 90 days, you get $100 because they're doing a good job. Well, if you hire your friend or you refer your friend, you're like, dude, you got to help me out here because if you screw up, it looks bad on me. Now you've got peer accountability, and that's the best way to get teams to start working together. And then after 180 days, that person who brought Joe Bob in also gets another reward. Now, Joe Bob does too, but you've got to incentivize the behavior you want. And when you create that kind of expectation, all of a sudden, now I'm going to be going, Joe Bob, dude, you can't be doing that because that's not what we do here. You can't be saying that. That's not what we do. You can't act that way in front of a customer. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, now your team is holding each other accountable for the behaviors you expect, and that's better.
Are there any other ways that you know of to kind of get people to refer, their friends and talk about it? Because I think that the most high quality employees come from those that come from within, right? Referrals from within. So are there other ways that you can kind of get this out there? Because it seems like our pros always get stuck in this feast or famine scenario where, it's the winter, they don't really need anybody. So they're not talking about it all. But then all of a sudden it starts to get busy. Now they're talking about it, but guess what? It's been busy. Now everybody's getting busy. So it's really hard. So how do you, A, keep this always recruiting mentality on? And two is, what are some other ways that you can get your employees to keep talking about your business to other potential employees?
So great. You always have to be recruiting for talent. Always, 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 even if you're totally full, because your job is like a football coach or a baseball coach. Your job is to be looking for your next year's running back, your next year's, defensive end, your next year's pitcher, whatever that looks like. And many times in business, we're like, oh, but all the little check boxes in the org chart are full, so we're done. We don't have to do anything. Wait a second. What if somebody gets sick? What if? We don't build our leadership and our talent bench the way we should. I've got a book on this called Who Comes Next? And it's exactly that. It's how you build your bench, what it is you need to do. And part of that is a mindset. Some people in charge think, I'm going to do this forever. No, you're not. Or they think my people will be here forever. No, they're not. And in the military, we know that. We know that every single year, you're going to lose between 33 and 50% of your personnel. That's just how the rotations work. You move every 2 to 3 years. So either you're gone, your boss is gone, or you change locations, something changes, which means you always have to be looking for talent as the employer. And as the employee, you constantly have to be showing up and providing value. So your job as a boss is when people show up, you recognize that talent, you figure out who's really doing a great job, and then you reward that individual with promotions and all that. But also, you have to be constantly looking for that leadership bench and then developing that leadership bench. You want to have the reputation as a company that when times are slow, you're developing your people, you're developing your next strategy, you're moving forward. You're not just laying people off. That's a terrible term. What you say is, during slower times, we focus on developing our personnel by giving them more time off. We're a lifestyle organization. And all of a sudden people go, that sounds way better than getting laid off. So a lot of it is you are attracting people who they want some time off at certain times of the year. So celebrate that. Make it obvious. We are a lifestyle organization. You will get time off. And if you want us to pay you for the entire time, we can spread that out. This is why a lot of people say, well, teachers get paid for 3 months off in the summer. No, they don't. They're essentially paid for 9.5 months. They just mostly choose to spread it out over 12 months for budgeting purposes. Your people can do the same thing.
That's a really clever hack. I didn't think of it that way.
And I like the term building your bench. I've never heard of that before. And that totally makes a lot of sense to have that roster of people. Maybe even if they do go and get another job, still even extending the offer to them, keeping that door open and that relationship open, because you never know if your paths are going to cross in the future.
That's exactly right. And you don't want to burn bridges, especially with great talent. Great example last week, a gal I've worked with, she's with a major organization. She just got hired for another organization. She had told her boss, hey, they're wooing me, they're recruiting me. And he was like, well, but there might be an opportunity here for 5 years. And she goes, look, I'm going to be back in 5 years. I am, because y'all are really big and you're going to buy me out anyway. So we're going to be working together moving forward. And they all kind of went, oh, okay. So there's nice ways to do this.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about like the do's, like do this, do that, some steps. What are some of the biggest mistakes or the don'ts? So what should business owners not be doing when it comes to recruiting?
They should not be recruiting people who are not going to help them. They should not be recruiting their friends because their friends need a job and they are terrible for the organization. They should not be recruiting toxic attitudes. It is much harder to change an attitude than a skill set. You can teach a skill set. It is very, very difficult to overcome a terrible attitude. And a lot of people are so worried, again, because of where we were a year ago and 2 years ago, they're not firing the people they need to fire. And some people, even if you're shorthanded, if you've got somebody in there who is poisoning the well and they are that bad apple, you need to get rid of them. And you need to be strong enough as a leader to do that, because I got news for you. Your top talent is waiting for you to get rid of those bad people. They're waiting for it. And in fact, they're frustrated with you by not holding those people accountable, and they are rolling their eyes. So as soon as you get rid of the bad people in your organization, you'll be amazed at how much better your team performs without them.
And how do you gauge that bad attitude? Sometimes, most of the time, I would say it's very apparent when you're speaking with someone if they're negative, they're saying terrible things. But how do you identify that and then just put it to rest immediately so it doesn't even get into your organization?
Wow, that's such a great question. You can usually tell. So the people who are listening, they're all thinking of somebody. They're thinking of somebody. They're like, maybe they're talking about Daisy. Maybe they're talking about Scott. Maybe they're talking about whoever. Leaders know. You just do. The people who nobody wants to work with, the people that your customers go, oh, really, Daisy's going to come? We really liked Roland. Can Roland come instead? Something like that. That tells you something. And you need to be listening to that instead of dismissing those small comments. You have to be many times people won't overtly complain, but they will just leave you. And they will leave you and they'll never tell you why. And you need to be the person who looks for that common denominator and that common employee. And you need to be very discerning about that. And then you need to not be afraid to ask tough questions, even if it means having those uncomfortable situations. And I'll share with you, sometimes organizations bring me in to fire people. They're like, we think it might be, Daisy who's our problem, but Daisy's been here for 20 years and she's really nice and she brings donuts. I'm like, okay. And then they bring me in, they go, we need you to fire Daisy. I'm like, okay, I don't know Daisy. I'm fine with firing Daisy. And then I find out Daisy hates them. Daisy only placates them like she's poisoning the donuts. Like she's just a terrible person. And they just don't want to make the hard decisions. In chapter 6 of my Why Leaders Fail book, it's called Miscongeniality. And it's where leaders make the ultimate mistake is that they try so hard to be liked that they're disrespected because they refuse to make hard decisions. And that is difficult for a lot of especially young leaders and early business owners.
Yeah. And I think, you have your type 1, your type 2 decisions. And, sometimes you need to make that decision when you need to let go of somebody. And I would say the sooner you do it, the better. Because winners want to work with winners and they can detect non-winners. And so you should listen very closely to your people and hear what they say. And, if you've got somebody in question, listen to the way that they talk about others and how they treat others, because those are probably the things that they're doing internally into your organization as well. And so a lot of examples that I like to give pros is like go for ride-alongs, whether they're customer ride-alongs or when they're interacting and doing community tasks with other employees, like cleaning things, organizing the shop, etc. And just kind of watch, because you'll see it both on a spoken behavior level, but also just on a physical behavior. Like, are they standing far away? And there's a lot of great tells for these types of things. And yeah, the hardest thing is you got to make that decision to let them go.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where if you take somebody to lunch and they're mean to the wait staff, you can be pretty sure they're pretty mean to other people too.
Oh, yep. Yeah. Oh, yep. I don't like people who are mean to wait staff. Everyone needs to have some type of restaurant or service job to understand what everyone goes through. I had another question. Hold on. So you're saying sometimes organizations bring you in to do the firing, but kind of what we're talking about right now is if you're not taking ownership over that makes you look like a less effective of a leader. What are your thoughts on having someone, if you say, hey, manager, you go fire this person instead of the owner doing it? What do you think about that dynamic?
Supervisors need to fire their own people. And the reason they bring me in is because sometimes it's a senior person. So when I get brought in, by the time I get brought in, we're at it's one of three options. Either they bring me in to coach that person to get them up to speed. And sometimes, so that's a great option if that person wants to be coached, if they're a coachable person. Number two is they bring me in to coach that person and there is no way that person wants to work with me or anybody else. They do not want to improve. So in that case, I just document it so that we have all of the paperwork in order to get rid of that person when they need to. And the third option is we think this person needs to go, but we don't want to have the tough conversation because we want to stay friends with them or because we don't want other people in the organization thinking that we're hatchet people. So you just figure it out. And I have all these techniques to figure out what they really want to be doing and, fun ways to get them to that point. So the idea is to create a win-win for the organization. Because generally speaking, if you've got somebody in your organization who is unhappy, they're bad at their job, they're not great with customers, the other employees don't like them, they're not happy. So helping them find a place where they will be happy, especially right now when jobs are plentiful, is better for them too. And we have to, as leaders, not be so worried about ourselves being liked or having an uncomfortable 20-minute conversation. We have to look out for what's best for them. How do we best transition them in a kind but also firm way, because we have to be able to watch out for the business. If our business isn't making money, then it's a hobby, not a business. It is not sustainable. And then we can't take care of our good employees, our families, our community, and everyone else who is affected, especially our customers.
I like that way of thinking about it. Obviously, as we're talking about these kind of issues and the backside of recruiting, right? It's almost anti-recruiting, right? Because you're trying to get someone and you're trying to let them go. Obviously, what you're trying to do is bring new people in the organization, and you're doing that because you're trying to delegate. And I feel like for a lot of our pros, that transition where you kind of mix the leadership and you're trying to delegate there, you're taking all this responsibility as you as the business owner, and you're trying to infuse it into someone else and then trust that they do the right job. So maybe you can give our pros some really tactical tips or like the process that you walk through on how to start delegating, or if you're already delegating, you've got people, you're not delegating enough. So as a business owner, you're still retaining some of the things that probably you shouldn't be.
Absolutely. So if you want to be making $100 an hour, you have to stop doing the jobs that you can pay somebody else $8 an hour to do. That's the easiest thing. That's called opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost of your time, your talent, even if it's your thinking time. Like there's some things that I still like doing and it doesn't take me very much effort, but then I have to think about it and say, am I actually relaxing by doing this, or am I taking valuable thinking time away from solving another client problem? So I might like doing some internet searches because it's fun for me, but is that the best use of my time? So a couple things, especially for your pros. First, if your pros do not have their own virtual assistant, I would encourage them to think about getting one. There's an International Association of Virtual Assistants. These are professional folks who are great at handling things so that you're not having to piecemeal it out. So I've had a virtual assistant since before they were called virtual assistants, and she is my exec. She does things that she's better organized than I am for a lot of things. She tracks things. She keeps me on task. She runs my calendar, and she's amazing. And she lives 1,800 miles away from me. So many people say, well, I don't know of anybody in my community. You don't have to have that anymore. You can hire somebody from anywhere else. People are all working remotely, so that's easy. So virtual assistant, again, make a list of all the things that you don't love doing, and then the things that you're simply bad at doing. Like, I'm bad at interior design. I get that. I hire for that. Everything that I know I'm bad at, I make a list. I'm like, can I afford to hire somebody for doing this? Now, so let me break it down. So let's break it down to your house. I can clean my own toilets. I don't object to it, and I'm pretty good at it. But is my time best doing that? And am I going to clean my toilets and my sinks and my baseboards and dust and vacuum religiously once a week? No, not going to happen. But if I hire somebody to do it religiously once a week for 4 hours, does it get done? Every time, you bet. Because people respond to incentives, and that's their business. The gal who comes and helps me looks like my sister, and she loves to clean. Man, she's just the happiest cleaner ever. She's like, I just love making things sparkle. And I'm like, I love you so much, because she does the thing, and she does things consistently better than I do, and they get done. So do I deep clean better than she does? Maybe, if I did that. And this is where we as business owners and pros have to give. We have to get rid of that ownership. We have to say, you know what, maybe they don't do it exactly like I would do, but maybe it's better. And maybe it gets done instead of being on my growing list of to-dos that just gets longer and longer and longer, and it's causing me more stress and more anxiety. We can't do that. Anything that you can delegate, this is the one thing to think about. If you can delegate it, because that allows you room for growth, room for progress, room for strategy, and then you can do more of the things that you're great at doing. If you don't want to make that step to hiring a virtual assistant, then use some of the organizations out there to do the things that you don't need to do. Maintain your database, do some invoicing, refresh your web page, and you can get these people on Fiverr, on Upwork, on, where else do I go for these? People who work. You can even go on Nextdoor and find someone. Whenever I find somebody who loves doing something I don't like doing, I'm like, really? Show me some of your work.
Curious.
I have some young people who I met them when they were at work with their mom, and I looked at the one young person. I said, what do you love to do? And she said, I love organizing things. I'm like, can I hire you? And she looked at her mom and smiled, and her mom goes, that's a great idea. So I hired her. That's 2.5 years ago. She still works for me every single week. She's great. You find great talent for things that you're not great at doing. You hire it out. It may take you a couple tries. It may take you more than one. But if you're going to make a flyer and you're in charge of a company, is that really the best use of your time? No. You sketch it out. You send it to somebody on Fiverr. You tweak it when it comes back, and you send it out. Is it perfect? It's good enough. Maybe you wanted maroon instead of orange. Who cares? Get it done. Getting things done is more important than getting things perfect.
Yep. Perfect is the enemy of done.
That's so quotable. Getting things done is better than getting things perfect. And so, Mary, your business is called Productive Leadership. And how does the practice of delegating relate to a person's leadership style and effectiveness at the end of the day?
If you've ever seen an executive's office, their desks always look really clean, and you're thinking, where do they get their actual work done? The answer there are drawers. What you do at the end of the day is you take all your piles of stuff and put it into drawers so that people think that everything is calm and like you're duck paddling like crazy underwater. That's what's really happening. But the big secret is they delegate. They've got people who are coming in saying, this is what you have to read. This is what you have to know. This is what has to come next. This is the decision. Because your job as the top leader isn't doing the paperwork. It's making the decisions, doing the strategy, creating the plan. And that's where a lot of folks get stuck. They think, well, only I can do this. That's not true. Only I know this. Well, if that's the case, teach others. Allow others to be shadowed by you so that they can step up. One of my best friends in the Navy was told very early on in her career by a chief, one of our senior enlisted folks, who said, you need to have the leadership so that if you don't show up to work, nobody really notices because everybody knows how to do their job perfectly. And it sounds counterintuitive because you think, oh, as the leader, I'm indispensable. I am all powerful. I am almighty. That's not it. Great leaders can take time off work, and everybody is okay with that because they all know what to do in your absence, because you have trained them, because they are cross-functional, because they know how to support each other. They know your vision, they share your goals, and they are working on the mission even when you're not there. And that's what you want.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to have that framework in place so they can go through, and if they have just something's come up, they know how you would think about it and in what order you would necessarily prioritize to go through this thing. So your company values, like it might be something they never came across, not on any of your checklists, but if you give that to them, you can get to that next step to where that they can come to a pretty good conclusion just completely on their own. And if you have that in place, that's going to help you so much. One thing I was curious about was, when you're delegating and you've got, these virtual assistants, how can you trust them? How do you give them your passwords and your logins? I think a lot of pros are always confused by that and just they want to keep all the keys. But how do you go about even doing something like that? Yep, here's all my logins. And how do you place that trust there? Because I feel like just that transfer is such a big step for a lot of people.
Chapter 2 of the Why Leaders Fail and the 7 Prescriptions is our most popular chapter, and it is a chapter on trust. So for your group, if they go to the website, it's totally free, called 7prescriptionsforsuccess.com. That trust chapter is there. Interestingly enough, people who are trusting people and trust other people tend to attract people who are trustworthy. Now, having said that, sometimes you don't want to do that. Do you want to give somebody you've never met your bank account? You probably don't. My executive assistant, my first executive assistant, had all my bank accounts 2 years before I even met her face to face. So obviously you put protections in and all that, and you might put limits on things in the beginning. I think trust should be assumed until it's proven that it's not. And then you work from there. But for my social media things, if you ever see a social media post on any of my platforms, and it's talking about how great I am, I didn't do it. I'm just telling you, it wasn't me. I have a team who does that. And it was a little bit tough because I thought, well, what are they? And finally she said, look, my job is to promote you. I went, oh, I guess so. Okay. She goes, I need you to let me do my job. I was like, okay. When somebody who works for you says, I need you to let me do my job, that's huge. And when I was working for some folks in the Navy, I had a new boss come in and he said, what do you need from me? I said, boss, I just need you to not be an obstacle. So he was like, oh God, who have you worked for before and how bad was it? I said, well, it wasn't that great. I said, I felt not valued. I felt like they didn't trust us, any of us, not just me, and we felt unappreciated. The more you trust people, the more they feel appreciated by you. And that's apparent. So when you say, hey, keep me on track for this, all of a sudden they go, oh, okay. Or you say, hey, watch my back on this. They go, oh, okay. And it builds trust with your team. And ideally, even somebody who comes into your organization, maybe they've been burned by some other organizations before, maybe they're not that trustworthy coming in, your job is to train them to be trustworthy. And yes, part of it could be a moral issue, an ethical issue, but you've got to have that expectation that they will be moral, they will have ethics, they will do the right thing. And then you'll be amazed at the fact that people will surprise you by stepping up.
Yeah, and I also feel like what's important for people to realize here is that by giving trust and not having to earn it first, but just by giving it, and then if it's broken, so be it, the chances are they won't. And when you assume trust in someone, they feel very responsible with whatever you're entrusting them with. And they take more responsibility than if they would have tried to do it on their own. Because now it's not just them they're counting on, you're also counting on them. It's added pressure on that piece. So I think that's really good. And obviously The Speed of Trust is another great book. By Stephen Covey, but that's his son. It's a great book to read because it truly comes down to that, and you don't have a lot of time. You're looking to delegate and get out of the way so you can go work on higher value problems, which you mentioned. If you can do it $100 an hour and there's someone willing to do something for $8 an hour and it's something you'd rather not do, go delegate that out.
And part of it too, David Horsager also has a great book out on trust. That's like his whole thing, David Horsager. But the other part about the delegation that you mentioned is sometimes your people will surprise you. I've worked with my team for years and years and years, and a problem popped up the other day, and I said, hey, does anybody have the ability to do this? One of my people goes, oh yeah, my husband's got that software. We can do that in like 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, okay. Part of that is ask your people. Say, what else would you like to be doing? What are you great at doing? Or what can you do more of for the team? And again, listen for the answers because people will tell you.
Yep. And that's one of the pillars, you're looking at competency and then contribution, because people want to contribute to stuff.
Mm-hmm. You never hear about assuming trust. You only hear about you have to earn my trust. And if you lead with that, especially, we've talked about recruiting in the beginning of this. If you lead with that and you start with a new employee off in that mindset, you're setting them up for success because they don't feel like they have to walk on eggshells around you and go out of their way to prove themselves. They should be good enough to do their job and have your trust too. That's why you should hire them. I love that. You have to assume trust. It's the only thing you should assume about someone, side trust.
I totally agree. And then sometimes people are like, well, but you're trusting me with your bank account. I'm like, well, yeah. They're like, well, but what if I screw up? And then you're like, well, then we'll both learn a lesson. And then they're like, oh, okay. And that's it. Like I'm not being naive. You all know me well enough to know it's not being naive. It's, assess your people, understand your people, get to know your people. But again, default to the good. Default to the good.
Default to the good. I love that. And so the last thing, Roland, and I want to talk to you about is something we kind of went into depth with the last time was making sure that you check in on your own physical health. And obviously you're an expert on leadership, on processes, on operations, but none of that matters if you yourself are not physically taking care of yourself. So why is this important and how does it actually impact the health of someone's business?
And again, that's part of the put on your own mask before you put on somebody else's, back when we used to fly in airplanes. Mm-hmm. One of the questions I like to ask my leaders is, so give me a list of the 5 things you do to take care of yourself. And there's silence, because especially my entrepreneurs who are they're working 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week. And they're like, well, but between my family and this, and I'm like, what are you doing to take care of yourself? And then say, okay, if you were to take care of yourself, what would those 5 things be? And it's things like, well, I would get more than 4.5 hours of sleep a night. I would just stretch for 5 minutes in the morning. I would write in my gratitude journal at night. I would take 30 minutes at night just to hang out with my kids and not be thinking about work. I would take my dog for the walk. Everybody's got a list. And so I ask them, make the list and then put it on your whiteboard, put it on your to-do list. If you schedule it into your calendar, if you put on your calendar, you're going to get it done. But you also have to know what taking care of yourself looks like. And for some people, it's, I'm going to make that doctor's appointment I've been putting off for 3 years. I'm going to get that test done. We tend to think of it as being medical, but it's like what Roland was talking about earlier, making sure that you're on the right diet that works for you, making sure that you are not... I come from a family of Irish people, so about once a year I have to stop drinking for a couple weeks just to make sure I still can. It's things like that. How do we best take care of ourselves? And then if we were to do that, what kind of help do we need? And sometimes people say, oh, I'd go to a spa for 3 days. Well, okay, that's probably not going to happen, but what could you do that would be a miniature version of that would refresh you? There's a reason we get our best ideas in the shower. And neurologically, the reason for that, and now you're thinking about the best idea you ever got in the shower. And you're thinking, I do get my best ideas in the shower because you don't have to think about taking a shower. Your mind is free to wander off and go other places. And this is what we as pros need to do. We need to free our brain, make sure that we're healthy enough to continue to operate, make sure that we're getting enough sleep, make sure we're taking our vitamins, make sure that we're taking our blood pressure medication if we need that, exercise enough and eat right so that we don't need that ideally. But we also need to free our mind because many people get mired into that myopic thinking, that circle the wagons, especially in times of scarcity. I know that when I need a good idea or I'm trying to sort a bunch of stuff out of my head, I know this sounds crazy, but I go get a massage. And it's not because I enjoy it. I really don't. I lie on the table like a horse that's getting its shoes put on by the farrier, like ding, 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 ding. I don't like getting manicures or pedicures. I have to do it, but I hate it. I feel like the horse that's getting shod by the farrier. Same with a massage. I know it's good for my body, but it also means for 1 hour, I can't look at a screen. I can't be on a phone call. I can't be listening to a podcast. I need my brain to take that rest. So I try to do that when I feel real jumbled. I'm like, oh man, I got to schedule a massage. And not because I want to, because I know that I need that. I need to stop. I just need to. So you have to know what works for you. And making that list, there's a 5-minute life improvement plan and a 5-minute work-life balance plan. But we also have to look at that list and say, to improve my life, what am I going to stop doing? What toxic people do I have to cut out of my life? What am I going to stop worrying about? What was important to me last year that's not important to me this year? What are some things that they've been on my to-do list for a year and a half. Let's face it, they're never going to get done. They probably don't need to get done at this point. So I'm just going to cross them off and stop worrying about it. What do I need to stop doing it as well? And part of that is also knowing what stresses us. A lot of people right now are stressed out. And just so you know, Roland, as a guy, you're a little bit luckier than some of the gals because men process cortisol 10 times faster than women do. It's how you're biologically built. It's why, our ancient Paleolithic, cavemen were out hunting the woolly mammal. They got that big surge of adrenaline. And then they'd be like, oh yeah, now we're having dinner. And, we women will get that big surge and we're like, we can't sleep for 3 days. This is why if you've ever been in a relationship with a member of the opposite sex and you have an argument, men, you go right to sleep. Ladies, you're up for hours and you're still mad. See, that's just the cortisol processing through your system. So you have to know what your triggers are for stress. You also have to know what de-stresses you. And we're much better at identifying triggers than we are on what releases that stress.
Dr. Mary Kelly, you are the first person I've ever heard say that you don't enjoy getting massages. And I think that's so funny, but also it totally makes sense. Like it's the one time you can't look at your screen. And so for you pros listening right now, I think the biggest takeaways is making that list. What are those 5 things that you would do to take care of yourself? And an important thing you said, it does not have to be medical. And that's the first kind of way our brain goes. And we live in a world now, especially in the home services space, where you almost attribute your success of your business to how many hours you're putting in at work, how not well of yourself you're taking care because you don't have the time because you're so busy. So we kind of have to shatter that here and say, it's okay that you want to take care of yourself. It's okay to go get the massage that you don't like so you can get away from your screen, or just spend more time with your family. And that's something I run into with our pros a lot is I don't have time to take care of myself because I have to take care of my business. But at the end of the day, your business isn't anything if you can't show up for yourself.
All that is super valid. And, if you don't take time for your own health, then health will force you to take time for it. And so the other kind of golden nugget too, that you mentioned, which was a shower piece. And for a lot of people, it's just a place where you've got time to think nothing other than the thing you're doing. So a lot of people call that meditating. And you might not think you're meditating in the shower, but you're just doing, you're just taking a shower and you're just kind of taking time to think. And so for a lot of people too, like that time right before you fall asleep or right before you wake up where you're kind of snoozing, I always seem to get like all my best ideas then. And I'm like, okay, I got this great idea. I can't quite fall asleep because I got to remember when I wake up. But, you're processing. So if you give yourself that time, it gives you the ability to, think things through, things that happen in the week, things that happen in the day, potential solutions. And so taking a little bit step back, that's really important. I'm glad that you mentioned that as part of kind of the tips and tactics you're sharing for our pros here.
Well, sometimes we underestimate the power of our own brains. And we know that our subconscious mind is, I don't know what the multiplier is, but it's way more powerful than our conscious mind. So sometimes we have to say, okay, here's the problem I'm having with employee, Jones. I'm going to throw it into my subconscious brain before I go to sleep, trusting that my subconscious brain will have the answer for me in the morning. And so when we sleep, we do sort of shut down certain things, but our subconscious brain is still sort of operating and processing things. So it's like this big processor. And then we wake up in the morning, we're like, oh, there's a solution. Like there's the clarity. If we allow our brain to do what it's intended to do, it's wildly powerful. And I know that sounds all very woo-hooey from, an economist and a military person, but we have to use the tools that are available to us. And your pros are amazing, powerful, strong, smart people. So take advantage of all that inside your head because it's there.
Also, you can, one more thing about the shower, they make now like waterproof notepads that you can stick to your shower wall. So if you do have like a really great idea, you can write it down and it won't like fade away because it's waterproof if you are into that.
There you go. We're going to have to post a link in the blog article. I feel like a lot of the things that you shared today, there's a lot of tactics and a lot of self-reflection in a lot of the worksheets that you have for the pros. So for our pros that are curious about some of the things that we talked about, the leadership, the delegation component, recruiting, health, those types of things, what is the best way where they can follow you? What are the right websites? What's the easiest way for them to get started? Obviously, for our pros, we'll include all the links as well. So, don't worry, you don't have to stop, pause, or wait, stop, pause, play, to get all of them. But what's the best place for them to get started?
Well, I have a ton of free resources at productiveleaders.com. Productiveleaders.com, because who wants an unproductive leader? And if you do productiveleaders.com/free, there's a ton of my resources. And again, I started throwing those there before it was called the cloud, because I needed them when I was on the road with clients. So there's the business plan, the vision plan, just lists of things. And for everything else, I put all of them in this vault. I'm sending you some to share with your folks. And we just want to make businesses more productive. We want businesses to be profitable. We want them to be sustainable. And ideally, when we get to work together and we share information and resources, it allows us to have less stress, more profitability, more free time, more happiness.
Yep. And at that site, by the way, guys, there's a ton of PDFs. These are PDFs. These are Word documents. These are Excel documents. They're all stuff that you can edit or print out and write on. So this is super actionable. And we want to make sure that after you guys listen to this, you actually just take something that you learned today or something that you found on our site and actually put it into action. And that's the whole reason why we put this Pro Talks together. Hopefully you learn something, but then also do something.
Absolutely. I mean, today I downloaded the productivity sheet. I'm like, well, I need this one today. Can't focus that well.
I do one every single day of my life. Every single day. Every single day.
I learned so much from you just in this short hour again, every time we talk to you. So thank you for joining Roland and I. This was a blast. We'll post all of those links for you. I'm looking at the website right now, and there's everything from dog care form to 15 ways to grow your business, fill in the blanks, the 5-minute year in review, especially as we get towards Q4 here. So thank you, Mary, for sharing your knowledge with us, sharing all of your resources, and just being hilarious and an absolute joy to talk to. Thank you.
Hey, y'all are so much fun. And so if any of your pros have a specific question, you're I think I'm stuck on this and I didn't answer it, they can obviously send a note to you and say, hey, ask Mary on the next show, or they can just send me an email. It's mary@productiveleaders.com, and I promise I'll answer.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much for offering yourself and your help and your wisdom and your thoughts and your worksheets and all the things to our pros. And for all of our pros, we'll see you next week with another episode.
All right. Bye, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. Look forward to seeing you next week. For more information, go to housecallpro.com/pro talks.